So we're about to get started on the webinar. Nicole Bergman has just turned on the recording. So if you're starting to watch this video now, bear with us. We're going to go through a few steps while we get going. Okay, so you'll watch us start up a startup.
Okay, we're connected to YouTube.
Okay, so Song, we had your kind of agenda for how we would proceed, that script, right? Okay. So we'll start with introducing VFU, then we will talk about the Princeton program. We'll go on a tour of the Global History Labs landing, and then time for Q&A with the students. So for those of you who are watching the video, that's what you're in for.
I just need to make one small announcement that
Sure.
the Q&A will only come through on Zoom. It will not come through on YouTube. So for the panelists, if they can read the question that they're answering, so everyone will know the question.
Right. Okay. So, and we had thought that Tharafi or Seong, one of you two, are sort of tag team with each other in reading out the questions, and Rob and I can also kind of tag team. This should be conversational, I think, more than kind of, there's so many talking heads on the internet these days.
So good morning and good evening to everyone, wherever you are joining us from. I would like to say a few words of thanks for student unions and for Princeton, especially Jeremy and Nicole and Rob for going over the extra mile to make this happen. So this is the very first meeting for the VFU team and the learners and teachers community to meet. So I will let Jasmine from the University of Yangon Student Union speak first to introduce VFU.
Hello everyone, I am Jasmine from the University of Yangon Students Union. I would like to introduce to you all to the VFU, what it stands for and what we're doing at the moment. If I may, I would like to speak in Burmese first. Minglawa, Virtual Federal University Net, American Nangan Princeton Takato Wino Daria Open House Webinar Gani Tuzuation. Webinar Musakima, Titanango, Yamananga, Sanai Pusang Bay, Virtual Federal University, Jam Nang, Mesa Pitamare. The Leyline Federal Takato Hasoyans, Anashan Sineko, Sensen Jolani Tare, the Mapi Ringa, Jandu Jana, Manamia Rie. ညောင်မန်းချက်တွေစိတ်ကူးစိတ်သန်းနေကြောင်းတတိတီမွေးဖွားလာခဲ့တာဖြစ်ပြီးတော့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံရဲ့ Federal Democracy ရရှိတိုက်ပွဲနဲ့တသားရဲ့ရည်တည်လိုကြတဲ့ကမ္ဘာအနှံ့က Academic အတိုင်းဝိုင်းကပမောက္ခဆရာဆရာမတွေရဲ့ပူးပေါင်းပါဝင်ပေးမှုကြောင့်ရုပ်လုံးပေါ်ပြီးပြင်လာခဲ့ရပဲဖြစ်ပါတယ်ရှင်။ Leyline Federal တက္ကသိုလ်အားဆိုရင်ဆယ်စုနှစ်ပေါင်းများစွာအစဉ်တန်းနှိမ့်ချခဲ့ရတဲ့မြန်မာပညာရေးကိုဖြိုဖျက်ပစ်ပြီးတော့လွတ်လပ်တဲ့အမိခိုကင်းတဲ့ဝေဖန်ဆန်းစစ်မှုကိုအလေးပေးတဲ့ပညာရေးတရက်ပြန်လည်တည်ဆောက်နိုင်ဖို့ရည်ရွယ်ပါတယ်။တောင်ပေါ်မြေပြန့်ဒေသအားလုံးကပညာလိုလားတဲ့လူမျိုးစုလူထုအားလုံးအတွက် Leyline Federal တက္ကသိုလ်ကနေအမြဲတမ်းကြိုဆိုလျက်ရှိပါတယ်။ Leyline Federal တက္ကသိုလ်ကပို့ချပေးသွားမဲ့သင်တန်းတွေအကုန်လုံးကိုဘယ်သူမဆိုအခမဲ့တက်ရောက်သင်ကြားသွားနိုင်မှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်။သင်တန်းကြေးဖြစ်စေ certificate ကြေးဖြစ်စေဘာအကြောင်းပြချက်နဲ့အတွက်နဲ့မှငွေကြေးကောက်ခံသွားမှာမဟုတ်ပါဘူးရှင်။သင်ခန်းစာတွေကိုမြန်မာဘာသာအပြင်လူမျိုးစုဘာသာစကားတွေနဲ့ပါပို့ချပေးနိုင်ဖို့အတွက်လည်းစ조사နေပါတယ်။ Leyline Federal တက္ကသိုလ်အားဆိုရင်ကျောင်းသားတို့ခေါင်းဆောင်မှုကိုအခြေပြုသွားမှာဖြစ်ပြီးတော့အစိုးရဝန်ကြီးဌာနတွေနဲ့သက်ဆိုင်ခြင်းမရှိဘဲနဲ့လွတ်လပ်စွာရည်တည်တဲ့ institution တစ်ခုဖြစ်ပါတယ်။ ဒီတက္ကသိုလ်ရဲ့ပထမဆုံးသင်တန်းဖြစ်တဲ့ Global History Lab ကိုစတင်နိုင်တော့မယ်လို့ကြီးညာပေးနိုင်တဲ့အတွက်လည်းအရင်ကိုခေါ်ယူဝမ်းမြောက်မိပါတယ်ဒီ Global History Lab သင်တန်းကို Princeton တက္ကသိုလ်ကပါမောက္ခ Dr. Jeremy Edelman နဲ့သူရဲ့ teaching assistant တွေကပို့ချပေးသွားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒီသင်တန်းမှာဆိုရင်1300ပြည့်နှစ်ကနေစပြီးတော့အခုအချိန်အထိကမ္ဘာတဝန်းမှာဖြစ်ပေါ်နေခဲ့ပြီးတော့ဖြစ်ပေါ်နေစေလည်းဖြစ်တဲ့ globalization ကမ္ဘာမှုပြုခြင်းအကြောင်းသင်ကြားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒီကမ္ဘာမှုပြုခြင်းကြောင့်ဘယ်လိုဖြစ်ရပ်တွေဖြစ်ပေါ်ခဲ့တဲ့စီးပွားရေးပိုင်းဆိုင်ရာကုန်သွယ်မှုပိုင်းဆိုင်ရာယဉ်ကျေးမှုပိုင်းဆိုင်ရာမှာဘယ်လိုအကျိုးသက်ရောက်မှုတွေရှိခဲ့တဲ့ဒီဖြစ်ရပ်တွေကကမ္ဘာသမိုင်းကြောင်းဘယ်လိုပြောင်းလဲစေခဲ့တဲ့ဆိုတာနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ကျောင်းသူကျောင်းသားတွေကသင်ရမှာပဲဖြစ်ပါတယ်အခုလိုမျိုးလေတိုင်း Federal တက္ကသိုလ်ရဲ့ပထမဆုံးပို့ချတဲ့သင်တန်းအပေါ်မှာစိတ်ဝင်စားနဲ့လာရောက်စီးရင်ပေးသွင်းပြီးတော့အခု webinar ကိုတက်ရောက်ပေးကြတဲ့ကျောင်းသူကျောင်းသားတွေအကုန်လုံးကိုလည်းကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်လို့ပြောချင်ပါတယ်ရှင်ဟုတ်
So thank you, Jasmine. So this Global History Lab course, World History from 1300, is the first course, but there will be a series of courses by Global History Lab as well as other faculty members around the world using our VFU portal. So please stay tuned to announcements on VFU and the Telegram channels. We will talk more about these communication channels later on. So I will hand over to Jeremy's team.
Thanks, Tharafi. Thank you, Jasmine. And thanks to everybody for showing up for this open house, this big experiment in rapid response education. We'll get into the details about the content and the format and many questions that you might have about what and how we're going to be learning together for the next few months. Just by way of background, so my name is Jeremy Edelman. I'm a professor of history at Princeton University, and I created this thing called the Global History Lab about 10 years ago when we began to experiment with long distance, online, and interactive education. And the interaction is really important because as you're going to see, this is not what you will think of or often associate with long distance education, which you just sit in front of a screen and stuff gets dumped in your brain and you've got to try to make sense of it. There's going to be a lot of exchange, interaction, arguments, learning together. And that's an important principle of what the lab does. So, and we use the word lab because we are experimenting, and this is an experiment, and because we collaborate and learn from each other. It is global. We involve students from all over the world and try to respond to emergency needs. So in what is our summer last year, when COVID smashed a lot of institutions that were not able to offer continue their curricula for their students in a variety of settings. And in some settings, we're in the middle of political convulsions, like Belarus in the middle of a set of very contested elections. We try to provide continuing learning opportunities for students. Also, to reflect on the circumstances in which they find their own moment in history, just as you do. So those are the general principles of what the lab does. And in a minute, I'll take you on a tour of the site and how it works and the kinds of things that you can look forward to or not look forward to learning, because learning isn't always easy. But before I do that, I wanted to introduce my collaborator here, who you will hear a lot from over the course of the next few months, which is Rob Conkle. Rob is a PhD student finishing up a really wonderful dissertation about the history of the world economy in the 20th century. He has experience teaching in this course before and is an excellent organizer. So he's going to be the coordinator of this program for the next 3 months. Rob, could you say a few things about yourself? And then, and so for everybody, as we go through, Rob and I are also going to kind of tag team on the presentation here. Rob, introduce yourself.
Okay. Thanks, Jeremy. Hi, everyone. It's a real pleasure for me to be here. Like Jeremy said, my name is Rob Conkle. I'm a PhD student in the history department at Princeton, and I'm going to be the course coordinator. And I will likely do some teaching as well. So you will hear a lot from me about course logistics as we go along. And I should also be able to answer many of your questions about the course work and course expectations. I taught this course last summer to students in New York and to Belarusian students who are based in Lithuania. And I'll just say a couple things about the course as well, maybe piggybacking a little bit on what Jeremy has already said. I really think that this is a special course that connects us to a lot of different parts of the world and to different people around the world. And you will learn a tremendous amount. The scope is enormous. You know, it takes you from the year 1300 right up to the present day. And it shows you how global structural forces have and continue to affect our lives today. It's a challenging course. Learning to actually think globally takes practice. And in my experience, learning how to toggle between different scales of analysis, whether it's local or national or regional or global, doesn't always come naturally or easily. But the course is very rewarding, not only in terms of the enormous amount of material that you're going to learn and the analytical tools that you will acquire to think in different kinds of spatial dimensions. But because, like Jeremy said, so much of this work really is collaborative and so much of the learning is collaborative. We learn with and we learn from one another. And that includes the instructors. We're going to be learning right alongside you as we go through this. And I think, more than anything else, what we really want is for this course to be helpful and useful and interesting and fun for all of you. So I'll look forward to hearing from you later on in the Q&A and hopefully get to meet some of you electronically a little later on.
Super, thanks, Rob. What do you think, Seong Tharafi? Time for a tour? Should we go into the site and just jump right in, I think? Yeah, okay, great. Okay, everybody, buckle up. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen, and then we're going to go into the space in which you are invited to travel around the world and across time. Share screen. So here we go. It moves over to another screen here. Can you see? Thumbs up from Rob or, okay, good. Okay, so my camera's over here, but the screen that I'm showing you is over here, just so you understand. Widen it out here. Okay, so when you first enroll in the course, this is what you see. It'll be the portal, the point of entry. It's an archived course right now, which means the space is sitting there waiting for you to take advantage of. And I should say, as I'm clicking in here, because we've just pulled this together in the last few days, we will be updating the calendar week by week of what you can look forward to. So which date aligns with which week and so on. This is what's going to, as you'll see right over here, it says January 31st, 2020. That's we'll be updating that in the coming days. So it's a course it's a Princeton course. First of all, you should know you are taking what we at Princeton call History 201. It's the introductory level history of the world for Princeton undergraduates like you. So you'll be taking a full-blown Princeton course. It's designed around the Princeton semester, which is 12 weeks long. We will have a break week right in the middle. So you'll have 6 weeks, a week to breathe, and then 6 weeks, and we will wind up. And I can see already Rob has started to build in, or some people have started to build in. We're calling it the monsoon season course because we realize our summer, as in what would be North American or European summer for you, is a different kind of season. So as a placeholder, we've just called it the monsoon season course. Let's just click open. Like you, I'm clicking it open for the first time. Statelessness. Is this, Rob, is this the first case study we're uploading, or like a test case for them?
This is all kind of test right now.
Okay.
Mona and I were going through and just kind of like adding things, but yeah,
okay,
it'll be updated.
Okay, so I'm not going to open this up then, because this is just the experiment for redesigning this to get this ready for you as we start in 2 weeks' time. You'll see here everything is mapped out by week for 12 weeks. And each week segment has everything bottled up inside it. So on week 3, which might be, I suppose, probably the first week of July, we'll open that up to give you an idea of what entering a week looks like. Let me say a little bit just to get started on the content of the course. So it's a history of the world from 1300 with double shocks to the global system in 1300. And there was a very loose kind of global system. We often call it the Silk Road, that connected up the different parts of Afro-Eurasia. With, of course, the New World, the Americas, being a world apart, which you will learn about. So it starts with 2 shocks to the system. One was the rise of something called the Mongol Empire, and we'll talk about conquests and empires, and that's an important theme for understanding world history, and empires have not gone away. So we spend a lot of time talking about imperial integration, which is really very relevant for your history, and something that I think we'll wind up talking a lot about this season. The other big shock to the system was the Black Death. And I think the other thing we have to be thinking about in this course is the role that science, medicine, disease has played in the history of the world. And if it has a big overarching set of questions that we always pose in the course is, what are the forces or the dynamics that pull the parts of the world together, like trade or conquest, and what are the parts that fracture it, that divide it, that dissolve global integrations? In a sense, dealing with that basic push and pull of integration, disintegration runs throughout the 12 weeks. To learn about these forces, there are 2 basic resources that the platform offers. Let me open up. Shall I just song? I'm gonna pick a week, any week. Tell us, like, stick a pin in a week and we'll open it up.
I'll go for week 6.
Week 6, good choice. I can't even remember what's in it. Boom. Oh, it's a great one. Extremely relevant song. Nice choice. Why? Because it's all about the effects of revolution, a very relevant topic for you. Let's open up. Here's what, if this were week 6 and we were starting week 6, this is what it would look like. Overview. So the first thing you get is a welcome note. It gives you a description of the 2 lectures that you will face. Every week, we have 2 pre-recorded lectures. You'll see a lot of me on your screen. We are working on, you will be able to watch the lecture, read the transcripts of the lecture in English, and we are working on translations for them into Burmese. So welcome to week 6. 2 lectures. I'm going to show you very briefly just a snippet of one of the lectures. It's the part of the course that I most dislike, which is, seeing myself on the screen. I get very tired of it, but here we go. So this is what it's like to open up a lecture. Look at, there he is. Sorry, got to hit play, blah, blah, blah. So that's what a lecture looks like. You'll see up here, if you can follow my cursor, it's broken into segments. So each lecture is about an hour long. but we compartmentalize them into segments with a little tiny quiz after each segment. So each segment is usually around 10 minutes, and then there's a little pop question to invite you to apply what you've just learned in that lecture. So each lecture, that's what it looks like. You'll see we already have them translated into Arabic on the side. We're working on having the Burmese translations also embedded in the lectures. So one component of the course is the lecture. I'm going to skip back to week 6. Whoops, let's reopen it. So you have lectures, 2 lectures a week, and Rob is in the process of working with a design team with the wonderful people at VFU on selecting what we call case study materials. Oops, sorry, Song. I'm going to have to switch to another because week 6 actually has no case study. And the reason for that is normally at Princeton, that's the week that we have midterm examinations. So let's go to another one. Let's go to the previous one. Revolutions. Sorry, I'm just going to go back. So we'll go to week 5. Okay, so open up week 5 where we know we have a case study. And week 5 is all about the world in revolution, the origins of nationalism, states, systems, very relevant for you. Every week, there will be case study material for you to think about. And let's jump into a case study then. I am going to, the case study consists of, and somebody want to remind me where, there we go. That's the lecture. I want to get to the case study. That, by the way, is what the quizzes look like after each segment of a lecture. Rob, can you help me out here? I want week 5's case study, and for some reason,
Yeah, I think either you can proceed along. Yeah, there.
Okay. Sorry, guys. It's been a while since I was in this platform. So this is what a case study looks like. What I'm showing you is the full detailed version. Rob and the design team are going to work on cutting it down, making it more simple and more accessible for you, just so the website doesn't consume as much of your data. But there's an introduction to a case study. And the case studies are really a collection of primary documents that allow you to get access to the voices of people in time and in history. It so happens that this case study is very relevant to your history because it's about revolutions and the conquest of India. In this particular case, it's about the East India Company and the Battle of Plassey in the late 18th century. And in a sense, one might think of the age of revolutions as also being the age of the reconstruction of empires. And in that sense, the history of South Asia and of Burma is extremely relevant for thinking globally about how revolutions work. So we invite you to look at voices from the time and to reflect on that. Usually it's one very short reading, and here's an example of a reading. And often we try to throw in graphic sources too, a painting, a map, a photograph. In this case, we have a bunch of them, and we ask you to analyze them, and we'll do it together. So those are the 2 components, the materials that you get, the lectures and then the documents from the past, to wrestle with what it means for you to think historically. So that's what's on the platform. In order to do this, there are 2 ways in which you will be interacting in groups. And in this, I have to, because Jasmine already mentioned this, say that we will offer 2 tracks for this course. One track is for anybody who wants to learn about these topics and engage in a discussion with each other about what they're learning. It will be a general open access course for all of you. We are also offering a second track, and I think Tharafi and Song will talk about this, which will organize 100 of you, and this is our ballparking the number of students who will be enrolling in the course, into teams of 10 who will collaborate together and will have allocated a teaching fellow like Rob or another PhD student at Princeton who will walk you through these materials and with whom you will collaborate. So you will meet once a week, and we'll talk about the platform for that, Telegram, in particular, to learn together in small groups to discuss this material. So the second track of students will actually be working on projects that Rob is working on with the design team. So you will interact within your teams. For the wider group, the last thing I will show you is, just to go back to the course, is we are going to, and Rob is going to organize and curate ongoing discussions about the topic of the week. So he will have a forum discussion, just to give you an example of how this works. So here we had a forum discussion the last time we taught the course on how did modern war and peace affect your families? And here you can see students from around the world put pictures, talked about it, exchanged ideas and debates with each other about the effect of war on people's personal lives and their families. So every week, Rob will pose a question and all of you will be able to join into this discussion about the topic of that week. So for instance, if it were revolutions, it would be, you know, how has revolution affected you or something like that. Each week, the topic will change. So there will be also interaction in the wider public that's in this course, and then interaction within each single team. So that's the format in a very loose structure. The content, the structure of the course, 12 weeks, each week with the lectures and a few readings and then discussion points for the wider public in the forum, and then within each team of roughly about 10 students. Tharafi and Seong, are there things that you think I should mention in particular? And then I will stop share screen and we can.
And also, Julia, do you think
Julia,
you have left out anything? Maybe either you or Song can talk about the different tutorial groups like over Telegram.
Yeah, I could talk about that a little bit.
Great. Shall I stop share screen? Might as well.
You can leave it up in case
Okay.
students have more questions
Okay.
after. So just a quick introduction. Hi, I'm Song. I've worked in Myanmar for a few years and I'm just supporting the VFU team. And we have other Myanmar professors and students, obviously, who are leading this initiative, but for relative anonymity's sake, they're not here on video with us today. But I'm just helping with the moderating some of the questions that you guys will have. And so with regards to student interactions with this Global History Lab led by Princeton, we will also set up a Telegram channel for those who will join the certificate track. And that will be the place where you can interact with the Princeton PhD students, ask questions, work on the case study projects together. So there will also be a separate platform for you to communicate in a much kind of speedier, easier way in your small groups. Anything else you want to add, Julia, to that? Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, you guys can start writing them either in Burmese or English in the comment section. You guys can also share it on the VFU Telegram channel. And we'll give you guys a minute or so to do that.
So just to clarify, as you're gathering your questions to pose, there will be two tracks. One is in a sense open public for you, right? It's really focusing on the lectures and the forum discussion that Rob will curate. So it's relatively low stakes in the sense that it's really 2 hours of lecture per week, and then as engaged as you want to be in the general discussion. The second track is more demanding, right? It's the certificate track where you will be organized into teams. You'll have to do some reading, you'll have to do some thinking together, problem solving, and there will be an assessment system that Rob and the VFU design team are working on. So those are just the 2 tracks. I see we already have one question about starting. Maybe I should just, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tharafi, but my understanding is that we're starting June 15th.
On the brochure, it says June 10th.
Okay, June 10th. That's fine. That's good. Yeah. So we start June 10th. I haven't looked at my calendar here. The lectures are usually released at the beginning of a weekend, right? And so you can watch the lectures. You can really watch the lectures anytime you want. They're all they're all sitting there posted. We ask you to stay in time, though. I know some of my students at Princeton, I don't know about you guys, you're probably the same as my Princeton students. You binge watch, like you watch, that's not a great idea. You're not gonna remember stuff. I would really try to stick to the pace of 2 lectures a week, and to ensure that you're all learning together. But technically, you can start anytime. All those lectures are there. But the course itself, the discussions and the teamwork starts on June 10th.
Jeremy, we have a question about if this will be verbally interactive.
Great question. That's a great question. We haven't really talked about this yet, but this is here. Look, this is an experiment. We are learning, improvising, and inventing as we go along. When I teach this course normally, I do have periodic open houses, and that's something we can do like this if you guys are interested in it, which is that as many of us kind of join in a discussion together, maybe around the topic that Rob has led the global discussion with you on, and we can have a town hall like this. I mean, I think we can do this technically, right, Seong? Tharafi, what do you think?
Yep. Yeah, so for the smaller discussion groups, maybe Rob, you can jump in, but the discussion among the PhD tutors is either to facilitate it on Telegram audio or through Zoom. So there will be twice a month when you guys will, in your small groups, have a chance to discuss verbally, like
that's right.
We are doing here in this group.
That's right. So there's small in-group conversations. Yeah, those will be, as much as we can try to do, given some of the constraints around bandwidth, there will be conversation there, and we can certainly think about widening up conversations like this to the wider world in the form of town halls or open houses.
So I want to clarify. One person on Telegram said that the course is already finished. So this course has been taught before. So for the certificate students, the highlight is that you will be able to engage with the tutors and other students weekly. So that is how it will be organized. So the discussion groups, the webinar tutorial sections haven't started yet. So.
That's right. And I think maybe the confusion that's arising is because when people go visit the site, what do they see? Course ends on January 31st, 2020. And they think, oh, I missed the whole thing. That's because that was the course that was being taught the year before last, right? We will be updating this very soon to say course begins June 10th. Just so for the students who are watching us here, you should know, that this conversation that we're having with VFU really only got started about a week ago. So we're scrambling to update stuff. So don't believe yet what you read on screen until we really do get the information updated. Maybe, Tharafi, that's what led to the confusion.
Sure. Jeremy, so for the Princeton team, I'm going to throw out a bunch of questions at you
Yeah.
guys. If we can keep the answers in under like a couple of minutes so we can get through all of these.
Absolutely.
So just a quick couple of starting off questions. There have been questions about for the certificate track, do students need to pay anything? And added to that, I want to ask the question about, is this certificate a Princeton course credit?
Yep.
And how that works? So those two questions, if you can answer for us, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, super great questions. So this course is free. Free. I mean, the only thing that it costs you is time and maybe some brain cells, but otherwise it's free. Everything is there for you, so no charge. In terms of credit, what you will get at the end, and Nicole, if she's with us, she can describe, and maybe she's even got one lying around on her desk there, what a certificate looks like. You will get a certificate of, I think we call it a certificate of completion or accomplishment, one or the other. It's not an official certificate. Princeton and edX, which is the platform for the course, don't issue official certificates or credits for these. But it's got some frills to it. It is a certificate. I sign it. My name and institution are on it, but it is not an official certificate, and it is not university course credit. And maybe this is a question to bounce back to you guys at VFU, is what the state of the conversation is on your end about accrediting this course for students who want to continue their studies. So Rafi, any thoughts? VFU, I suspect that you're still in the middle of a conversation about that.
That's right. And
Yeah.
also we have to also reach out to other institutions inside the country, also the authorities. Well, at this point, we can just say that we do not have accreditation, but we'll work on it after we know where other institutions are, so during the interim period.
Great, thank you for that. So we're having questions about how we will select students for the certificate track. I can answer this really quickly. So for this round, we will be sending out a case study example at the end of this open house. And it's an example of a case study that's offered within this course. And when you send it in, we will assess it based on your English level, as well as kind of your analytical skills, so that we can cap it at just 100 or 150 students because of the limitation of the Princeton teaching crew as well. Mm-hmm. So for now, it'll be English and critical thinking based. Mm-hmm. In future sessions, we will also consider a more Burmese-based version of this course.
Right.
We also have a question on protecting student privacy and security. And we know that that's a really, really important issue for us. So I want to turn that question over to Matarapi, or also Jeremy, based on your experience working in more conflict-sensitive contexts with the Princeton course.
Rafi, you want to start, and then I'll tell you, how we handle this in other conflict zones.
Yeah, so for the security issue, so when we send out the assessment survey, which will be at the end of the open house, even when we ask your name and email, we don't ask your real name and if you want to remain anonymous or want to use a pseudonym, and also so we try to, some of the tutorial sections or the discussions groups will be Telegram, edX, but if you do not want to appear or like turn on the video, that's fine. Or even if you don't want to join but you want to send in your questions, via email or other ways, that is also acceptable. So just get in touch with us and we'll make sure that, we will follow the security protocols that you need to follow.
I'm also seeing some other questions, but on the privacy, just to echo what Tharafi said, when you are on this site, your identity is not, or you can fashion your own identity. And I can give you an examples maybe from previous years. Let's just see in the discussions how students self-identify. So let's go into one of the forums. We talked about the one on war affecting families. So here a student gave his identity. His name is Peter Rapoli. Ashley Markle gave her name Maria 1269. That's how she gave herself a name when she gave her. You can design your own profile on the site, right? And therefore mask who you are, or you can be the avatar you've always wanted to be, right? You could be Karl Marx 123, whatever. And no one knows who you are behind the screen. So you're safe there, and we're relying, as Tharafi said, on the veil of Telegram to be able to allow you to safely be able to exchange your views there. Do you think that covers the question on that issue, Tharafi Song? What do you think? Okay.
We also have safety guidelines and tips on our website. For example, when you access our website, you probably also edX too. You should use VPN, etc. And we also have some technical support. So if you are also worried, you can also get in touch with us.
I think one thing is the students are reminding us that when we send out introductions, and perhaps even explain this on the landing site of the page, as soon as you've enrolled, here are some guidelines on securing your privacy. If you're concerned about it, give yourself an avatar name, rely on these sorts of devices. I think we should kind of lay that out just at the very beginning for everybody. Does that sound right?
Yes, and we could also provide just a guide, like Matt Therapy said and Jeremy said, of the security tips, including how to use and set up VPN, Proton email. And you are always welcome to opt out of any part of this online course that you feel not as safe engaging in. But we do also want to emphasize that this is just going to be like a regular online course that you might access on your own on edX. There are hundreds of courses on edX. This is just one of the courses where you will get a chance to interact with a Princeton professor and PhD students in order to engage with the online material that already exists for you. So for now, I do want to pass the question on to another point being made. So there's a question about how these courses will reach youth in remote areas, especially in ethnic areas as well. And I want to ask this more in a two-pronged way, both, how will it be for the Princeton course? But I think this is also asking probably for VFU courses in the future in general, which is a question I think Matt Therapy can answer.
So this one, I will answer in Burmese. Jasmine suggested that we should answer the questions in Burmese too. But thank you, Jasmine. So Lolo Zayaro, no, to Patamazo Dwello Tagatu course English, lo Piensentare course Piniro, no, Jamaru Garo Atana so Bamalu Pian Bede, Piro, or Bama Jang Bama Badanebe, then Luya so Birole. Season Jibame. Tabe Lumiozu in the Jero Blueless or tomorrow, the course school, the cha badari, Mapiadi, Damezaka, Pure Bullet season Shiva. Tomorrow, VFU got Pochare, the cha costume, or tomorrow the law say, မွန်ဘာသာရှိတယ်ကရင်ဘာသာရှိတယ်ရခိုင်ဘာသာရှိတယ်နော်တခြားကချင်တို့ချင်းတို့ထည့်ဖို့လည်းရှိပါတယ်အဲ့တော့အင်တာနက်နဲ့ဝေးတဲ့နေရာအင်တာနက်မသုံးနိုင်တဲ့နေရာတွေမှာကျတော့ကျမတို့ဒီ radio station တွေ TV တွေကနေလွှင့်ဖို့လဲစကားပြောနေပါတယ်နည်းနည်းတော့ကြာနေတာပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီဟာအခုထိတော့အကောင့်ထဲမပေါ်သေးပါဘူးတခါကျမတို့ဘယ်လိုစီစဉ်လဲထားလဲဆိုတော့ local learning hub လို့ခေါ်တဲ့ကိုယ့်ဒေသမှာရှိတဲ့ CDM လုပ်နေတဲ့တက္ကသိုလ်ဆရာတွေเนาะကျောင်းဆရာမတွေနဲ့စာသင်ကျင်တဲ့ကျောင်းသူကျောင်းသားတွေပေါင်းပြီးတော့ကျမတို့ site ကနေ resources တွေယူပြီးတော့သင်ခန်းစာတွေအတူတူပြင်ဆင်ပြီးတော့data alike လို့သင်ခန်းစာတွေလုပ်ဖို့လည်းအစီအစဉ်ရှိပါတယ်အဲ့တော့ကျမတို့ online ကော offline ကောနှစ်မျိုးလုံးเนาะအကုန်လုံးအကျုံးဝင်တဲ့ပညာရေးမျိုးဖြစ်အောင်ဘာသာစကားအခက်ခဲကြောင့်ဒီသင်တန်းတွေမတက်ရတာလည်းမဖြစ်အောင်ကျမတို့စူးစမ်းနေပါတယ်ကျမတို့နည်းနည်းလေးတော့သိခံပေးပါကျမတို့9ဘက်လောက်ပဲရှိသေးတော့လေကျမတို့စလုပ်တာ
I just
So we have I'm sorry, go ahead. Jeremy,
no, I just because that question that you posed, Sung, that from the student who posted it on the chat box is a really interesting one. I mean, part of and Rob alluded to this, that part of thinking globally is thinking across lines, across the dividing lines of nations and ethnicities, and we challenge something, and I don't spend a lot of time in the course on the theoretical side of this, though we can talk about it, but we challenge something called methodological nationalism. It does not mean that nations are irrelevant to world history. They're going to be very relevant, as you learn in this course. They've done amazing things and horrible things at the very same time. But we have to understand nations globally. We have to understand ethnicities and regions globally. So it would be really important for us in this ecosystem, with you really leading a lot of the discussion, to think about how a global perspective on some of the issues that you yourself are confronting as you think about the nation, regions, ethnicities, what that means on the conversation. In that sense, one additional thing I wanted to add to what Song just said, that what is exceptional about this course, that it's not like a normal edX course, is partly that there's a lot more interaction as we're doing now, but also that Rob is going to be tailoring the content of the course for you. That is, we have a lot of material on the history of the world from different places and different times. We're going to go through the material and curate it in ways that create case studies that will address the history of the kinds of processes that you are going through now, whether that's authoritarianism, whether that's ethnic cleansing, whether that's revolutions, whether it's public health and disease. We'll be looking for course material that will address and allow you to think globally and historically about our present together. And in that sense, we're kind of responding, and that's I said at the beginning about being rapid response. We're responding to the moment that we're living in now, in reimagining what the narratives from the past might help us think differently about the situation we're in.
All right. So we do have a question about whether we need any volunteers for translating the material, which is a really great question. Thank you for asking, whoever asked that. So maybe Mat Therapy could answer that one. The answer is yes, I think.
So ကျမတို့ဒီ website မှာရှိတဲ့ email address တွေကိုဆက်သွယ်လို့ရပါတယ်ကျမတို့ဘယ်လိုတွေတွဲလုပ်ကြမလဲဆိုတာကိုစကားပြောကြည့်ကြတာပေါ့
So we have another question about whether the certificate that they will get after this course is the same one as the paid edX certificate. Maybe Jeremy could touch on this.
Right, very good question. It's not. As I said, this is a free course, totally free, right? So you don't have to pay for the certificate. You have to work for it. right? So in that sense, track 2, which is the track that the Therafi was describing, is the one that will yield a certificate for you. You have to work for it. So you have to do the lectures, you have to do the weekly assignments, engage in conversation, think about the material and talk to each other about it. That's all you have to do. It's not an edX certificate. It's the certificate from the Global History Lab. If there's a question,
there is
yeah,
a
about how do
question
groups get
about-
organized?
Yes, how will the groups be organized?
Yeah.
Rob, do you want to take that question?
Sure, I can jump in there. Well, we'll wait, I suppose, until we have the final enrollment numbers for the certificate track. And then at that point, we try to, you'll each get assigned an instructor effectively, and you're organized into teams of hopefully around 10 people per team. And the way we often do it depends on our schedules. We have to try and plan around when people are going to be available, and we're planning across, very different time zones right now. But that's effectively how you're organized into teams. You kind of sign up for the team which is offering meeting times which are possible for you to attend. And I know some of the logistics of this are still kind of up in the air, and we're going to be sorting them out. But basically, you try to sign up for a team that works for you, and we do our very best to accommodate that.
And that's if you are admitted into the certificate track.
Yes.
Right. So one step, as Song mentioned, is applying to and getting admitted to the certificate track. And then once you're in the certificate track, you look at the times that are available for team meetings and you choose the one that fits your calendar. Is that what I? So a question I'm seeing a lot, Song, is, how does one apply for the certificate track?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've mentioned this a couple of times, but at the end of this open house, we will send you a link, like a Google survey link. And on it, you can just fill out the information. The case study will be attached. And you just need to write 300 words in response to the case study assignment. We will post it on the Telegram channel. We can also post it in the chat here in the Zoom box. So that's where you can get access to it. And yes, that's the only requirement for the certificate track. You don't need to do anything else. We're trying to make it as simple as possible for you. So I do see, again, a lot of questions about like certificate, what's the difference between edX certificate, Princeton certificate? I wonder if I can really simplify for folks based on what Princeton has said and what VFU have shared as well. So if you take the edX course online, it's always available for you. You just have to go through it on your own, motivate yourself, and complete the online course. There are ways for you to interact with students, but you have to basically type assignments in, and you have to see other students' responses on the Princeton edX platform. That's it. The benefit of the certificate track with the Princeton Global History Lab team is that in addition to taking the course online on your own on edX, you'll be able to join two like twice a week, I believe, discussion groups with Princeton history PhD students. So you can discuss with them, get extra guidance, as well as with other Myanmar peers in order to do the case study assignment. So more interaction. And there will be one additional kind of everyone kind of content debrief session. So the benefit essentially is that you get more student interaction, more professor interaction, and the certificate you get is an honorary Princeton certificate. So that's like a little perk, but so it's mainly if you want more interaction, if you want to up the intensity of what you learn, if you want more guidance and get kind of deeper into the critical thinking, that's what the certificate course will offer you.
Yeah, just to jump on what you're saying, Song, and underline it, what Song just said to you all is really important to understand that if you are in the certificate track, you're not a passive learner. You're not just watching the lectures and reading what somebody else is thinking. You are applying what you are learning. And that's really important for doubling down on not just what you're learning, but the development of skills. There was an earlier question about learning outcomes. I mean, one obvious one is learning some content about the history of the world, parts of which you've never heard of before, and times that you may know nothing about. You're going to learn a lot about the content of the history of the world, and Rob mentioned that. But you're also going to develop skills in critical readings of text. That's a word that's the song has used, on collaborating and on writing, right? And how to develop a historical argument. So there are also some skill sets that you're going to walk away with at the end of this course. So the application of what you're learning is really important for consolidating it. And the other one, and just to underscore what the song said, that's really different about this one, is you're doing this together. It's collaborative. You've got teammates, you've got an instructor, you're talking and you're listening and formulating your ideas together. And I think that's really what is different from the normal, more passive model of online learning.
So နောက်တစ်ခုထပ်ဖြည့်ပြောမှာကဒီသမိုင်းသင်ခန်းစာဆိုပြီးမဲ့ဒီရလာမဲ့ skills တွေကเนาะတခြား discipline တွေမှာလည်းသုံးလို့ရတယ်အထူးသဖြင့်ဒီအခုလောလောဆယ်ဖြစ်နေတဲ့အကြောင်းအရာတွေကိုเนาะအရင်တုန်းကဖြစ်ခဲ့တဲ့ဟာတွေနဲ့ချိတ်ဆက်ပြီးတော့เนาะအထူးသဖြင့်ဒီအကြောင်းသားတွေဥဆောင်တဲ့တက္ကသိုလ်ဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မလို့เนาะဒီလှုပ်ရှားမှုထဲမှာเนาะဟိုဘယ်လိုပြန်ပြီးတော့သုံးသပ်မလဲเนาะဒီတော်လှန်ရေးကိုဒီเนาะကျောင်းသားတွေကောင်းဆောင်တဲ့လှုပ်ရှားမှုတွေကိုเนาะဘယ်လိုဆက်လုပ်ကြမလဲဆိုတဲ့ဟာကိုဒီဆက်သုံးသပ်တဲ့ skills တွေလည်းရမှာပါเนาะ
So another question is about the workload. I think maybe Rob, this is a question I asked you before. Could you tell the students on a weekly basis how many hours they should set aside for, let's say, reading? How many hours for listening to the lectures? Yeah. How many hours for doing the case study? And how many hours of the interactive group work on Zoom or otherwise? If you can summarize that for us, that'd be great.
Yes, I will do my best. And bear in mind that to some extent, these are estimates at this time. We're still sorting through some of the logistics of this course, but I can give you, I think, a pretty reasonable ballpark in terms of expectations for time commitment. So as Jeremy mentioned, each lecture is 1 hour long approximately, and there are 2 lectures every week. So you can mark off at least 2 hours to watch the lectures. If you are enrolled in the certificate program, you will meet twice a week with your team, once with your team, perhaps once with a larger group. And you can expect those meetings to last about 90 minutes each. So that's another 3 hours. So we're up to 5 hours now. And to complete the case studies, I would set aside somewhere between 1 and 2 hours to read the materials, to answer the challenge question. This will likely involve some collaboration with your teammates. You might be working together to answer these case studies. And then in addition to this, we'll likely have some sort of midterm assignment and a final assignment to sort of round out your grade on the course. So it's somewhere between 5, 7, 8 hours per week, I think sounds about reasonable.
And if you are struggling with English a little bit, we will provide some additional Burmese tutor support. So you can kind of imagine, like, add a few more hours to that, maybe 12, 13, 15 even, depending on kind of your language abilities. The other question that we have is about internet connectivity issues, which is such an important question. We totally recognize that there's not like reliable internet connection for people. People are on their phones. So anyone on the Princeton team, as well as Jasmine, Matarapi, are there any tips for learning online? Is there any additional support we will provide students so that they can complete courses online? And will there be any any other kinds of support so that students can get access to internet? Yep.
Yes, we will be distributing USB sticks with all the materials on it. So if you don't want to rely on internet to access edX, also get in touch with us again, and we will let you know where you can pick up those USB sticks in your locations. And so to emphasize, there we acknowledge that there's so much going on around you in your lives right now. So learning might not be the first priority for you. So even if you enrolled either for non-certificate or certificate, I would say do not stress so much about it, because you do what you can given the situation, because there will be other opportunities in the future. The same course will be offered again in September, but with other universities, for example. So yeah, there will be many more opportunities, and also there will be different forms of learning for you. You are already learning in what you are doing. So.
And I would just add just one more thing, and it is related to internet and electricity issues. One of the students in this on the chat said that their electricity was about to run out. But one thing that's important to understand also about the format of the course is that everything is there for you to download and to review on your schedule. So there are 2 hours of lecture. You can watch those anytime you want, right? And same with these with the documents that you will be reading. So the only thing that is inflexible is the meeting times every week with your teammates, to be working together if you are in the certificate track. Right. The rest of it, you can, a couple of evenings a week, something like that. You should set aside time for the course. You can't learn so much if you don't earmark and set aside time for it. There's just a general recommendation. So if you want to do this, you'll learn a lot, but don't add it to a busy schedule without changing your schedule a little bit to accommodate it. That is sort of one way to think about whether and which track you want to choose for the course.
Thank you. And we're going to just wrap up because we're at the 1 hour mark. But one final tip is at the start of the Princeton edX course, there's a feature where you can download all of the content. And it's totaling about, I believe it was about 3 gigabytes overall. This includes downloading videos as a transcript. So you don't have to watch it as a video as well if you don't want to. So there are those tips and tricks, and we will provide those for you once you join kind of certificate track. So we want to wrap this up. Thank you so much for the Princeton team for offering this experimental course and sharing kind of what this will look like in the coming weeks. And thank you, students, for answering a lot of asking a lot of great questions. Matarapi is posting the Telegram channel link in the chat box on Zoom. I'm also attaching the form where you can complete the case study assignment. We will also post this on Telegram. It's great being able to talk to everyone, and we hope to see you in the course. All right. Is there anything else you would like to add, Matarapi? Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care. See you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Nicole.
Okay.
Thank you, Rob.
Good. So is it are we still live or, I mean, we're formally